All right, let's get into it. A recent congressional hearing with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. absolutely blew up online. Today, we're going to deconstruct how the Fox News panel on Gutfeld saw that whole confrontation, and more importantly, how they used it to make a much bigger point about a crisis of trust in American health.
So, this is where it all kicks off. This is the moment that lit the fuse. This wasn't just some polite disagreement, it was a straight-up accusation, and it instantly set the tone for everything that followed. So, picture this. A super contentious hearing on Capitol Hill. You've got lawmakers on one side really going after RFK Jr.'s credibility on public health issues. And, well, as you can probably guess, things got pretty fiery pretty fast. Now, to really get the impact of that opening shot, we need to understand what charlatan actually means. It's not just calling someone wrong. Nope, it's calling them a fraud. Someone who is deliberately fooling people by pretending to have expertise they just don't have. It's a heavy word. And this fight wasn't just about general ideas. It got down to some very specific nitty-gritty points. For example, when one lawmaker asked Kennedy if he accepted that 1 million Americans died from COVID, he pushed back saying nobody really knows because of what he called so much chaos coming from the CDC. And, that response became a huge sticking point. And this was RFK Jr.'s counterpunch. Instead of just defending his own position on the numbers, he completely flipped the script. He started questioning his critics' motives by bringing up financial ties to big pharmaceutical companies. That one move just totally shifted the energy in the room. Okay, so that's what happened in the hearing. But how did the Gutfeld's panel interpret all of this? Well, for them, it wasn't just about the words being said. It was about how they were said. They zoned in on the body language, the tone, the whole vibe of everyone involved. And the panel painted this incredibly stark picture. On one side, you have their description of Kennedy, calm, healthy, just kind of sickly batting them down. And on the other side, they described his critics as angry, unhealthy, and, quote, a mess. This whole framing was really the foundation for their argument about who came out on top. The hosts also went after the style of questioning. They basically argue that trying to force someone into a simple yes or no on something as messy and complicated as a global pandemic, well, that's just a rhetorical trap. It's designed to make things look simple when they're anything but. And this right here is where the conversation zooms way out. The panel uses this one heated exchange as a springboard to talk about what they frame as a massive systemic health crisis that's happening all across America. So, according to the panel, the reason people are even willing to listen to a guy like RFK Jr. doesn't just come out of nowhere. They argue it's a symptom of a much bigger issue, that Americans are just not healthy. And to back this up, they brought out some really striking numbers. First up, they hit you with this number. They claim that 54%, that's more than half, of all children in America have been diagnosed with a chronic illness. And it's not just the kids. They then pointed to the adult population, citing this statistic. 42% of all Americans are obese. But this was the data point they presented as the real jaw-dropper. The United States has just over 4% of the world's population, but apparently we consume 70% of the world's prescription drugs. To the panel, a gap that huge is all the evidence you need of a system that's just fundamentally broken. So after laying out all those stats, one of the panelists just puts this question on the table. It's the perfect bridge, right? It connects the problem, all these scary health statistics, to the public's reaction. Their point is, with numbers like these, can you really blame people for starting to question things? And this really gets us to the absolute core of the panel's whole argument. It's their explanation for why so many people are skeptical and why these so-called alternative voices are getting so much airtime. The panel argued that this skepticism isn't just popping up out of thin air. They say it's a direct result of things people have seen with their own two eyes. Getting what they felt was contradictory advice during COVID, or seeing policies that just didn't add up. And underneath all of that, they pointed to the massive financial influence of the pharmaceutical industry as a major reason for all this public mistrust. One of the hosts just perfectly summarized what they see as the end result of all this. It's this thought process that they believe is pushing more and more people to look for answers in different places. So, if you put it all together, the main thesis from the Fox News source is this. The growing interest in alternative viewpoints isn't the cause of the problem. No, they see it as the consequence, the direct result of a system that they believe has failed to keep people healthy and, in the process, has lost its credibility. And all of this leaves us with one last, really critical question to chew on.
The argument we just unpacked suggests that when people lose faith in the usual institutions, their search for answers doesn't just vanish. It just finds a new, often unpredictable path. And that's a dynamic that's shaping so much of our world right now.